Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series where we briefly discuss and analyze important news of the day. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. Committee on Digital Competition Law has submitted its report along with the draft bill on digital competition law. Union Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers issued Uniform Code for Pharmaceutical Marketing Practices 2024. Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers has inaugurated a credit assistance program for Aushadhi Kendras. Ministry of Power released 12th Annual Integrated Rating and Ranking of Power Distribution Utilities. Study titled Of the Woman, by the Woman, for the Nation, released by State Bank of India. Help to Die, the French President backs bill allowing medically assisted death. Starting with the first news. Committee on Digital Competition Law has submitted its report along with the draft bill on digital competition law. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs has constituted Committee on Digital Competition Law on the recommendations of a report of Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance on the subject anti-competitive practices by big tech companies. Committee on Digital Competition Law or CDCL report lists 9 anti-competitive practices by big tech companies. First is anti-steering provisions, in which exclusionary behavior hinders users from switching to third-party service providers. Next is platform neutrality, which accords favorable treatment to its own products or platform. Third is adjacency, bundling or tying, which forces consumers to buy related services. Fourth is usage of personal data for consumer profiling. Apart from these, other anti-competitive practices include pricing or deep discounting, exclusive tie-ups, restricting third-party applications, advertising policies, and search and ranking preferencing. Committee on Digital Competition Law has also made some recommendations. Let's have a look at them as well. It recommends for introduction of a Digital Competition Act with ex-ante measures to ensure that Competition Commission of India intervenes before instances of anti-competitive practices. Next, it calls for regulation of systematically significant digital enterprises which have ability to influence Indian digital market. If we talk about thresholds and criteria for designation as systematically significant digital enterprises, then these include significant financial strength comprising turnover and market capitalization and significant spread of enterprise in core digital services. Moreover, it also advocates for monetary penalty for non-compliance with ex-ante obligations restricted to a maximum 10% of global turnover of systematically significant digital enterprise. Let's also have a look at the present regulatory landscape of competition laws, which includes the Competition Act 2002, Information Technology Rules 2021, Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, and Consumer Protection Act 2019.
Moving on to the next news, Union Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers issued Uniform Code for Pharmaceutical Marketing Practices UCPMP 2024. Previously, the Uniform Code for Pharma Industry was issued in 2014, which was voluntary in nature. Let's begin by looking at the key highlights of the latest Uniform Code for Pharmaceutical Marketing Practices UCPMP 2024. Information about drugs must be balanced, up-to-date, verifiable, must not mislead either directly or by implication. Brand names of products of other companies must not be used without prior consent, and the comparison of drugs must be factual, fair, and capable of substantiation. With regards to textual and audio-visual promotion, promotional materials such as mailings and journal advertisements must not be designed to disguise their real nature. Continuing medical education should only be allowed through a well-defined, transparent, and verifiable set of guidelines. Also, no gifts, monetary grants, pecuniary advantage should be offered to healthcare professionals. Another, there should be Ethics Committee for Pharma Marketing Practices in each association for handling complaints. Other provisions may include Department of Pharmaceuticals may issue standing orders for removal of difficulties in operation of UCPMP. It shall also apply mutatis mutandis to medical devices unless exempted, or to the extent modified by standing orders. Further, let's understand the need of a uniform code for pharmaceutical marketing practices. Unethical marketing that downplays risks or misrepresents benefits can adversely affect patient safety. Also, to ensure resources are directed towards medications that address genuine medical needs, thereby leading to responsible innovations. Lastly, to uphold professional integrity of healthcare professionals by ensuring that prescriptions are based on unbiased and accurate information.
Moving on to the next news. Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers has inaugurated a credit assistance program for Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Small Industries Development Bank of India and Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Bureau of India exchanged an MOU for providing credit of working capital to existing and proposed Jan Aushadhi Kendras. This program proposes to use the GST Sahay platform and digital public infrastructure while providing unsecured working capital loans for small businesses. It also adds a credit layer in digital public infrastructure apart from identity and payment layer. Currently, there are around 11,000 Jan Aushadhi Kendras operating in India, which the government aims to expand to 25,000 in the next 2 years. These Kendras are outlets under the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, which provide generic medicines at affordable prices. These are run by private entrepreneurs and with government support, providing around 2,000 types of medicines and 300 types of surgical devices. Further, if we talk about the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, then it is a campaign launched by the Department of Pharmaceuticals in 2008 with an objective of making quality generic medicines available at affordable prices to all. It is implemented by the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Bureau of India, a society registered under the Department of Pharmaceuticals. Under it, medicines are procured only from WHO Good Manufacturing Practices certified suppliers for ensuring quality. At last, now let's understand the significance of these Jan Aushadhi Kendras. They pose a reduction in out-of-pocket expenditure, saving more than Rs 28,000 crores over the last 10 years period while buying medicines from Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Also, they have offered improved availability of generic drugs at affordable prices. Moreover, it has encouraged doctors, specifically in government hospitals, to prescribe generic medicines. And also, it fosters self-employment, providing small entrepreneurs with financial autonomy.
Moving on to the next news. Ministry of Power released 12th Annual Integrated Rating and Ranking of Power Distribution Utilities, DISCOMs. Integrated rating exercise launched in 2012 is being carried out on an annual basis with the aim of evaluating performance of DISCOMs. It is conducted with the Power Finance Corporation as a nodal agency and rates the performance of 55 DISCOMs. Here are the key highlights of the recent rating exercise. Aggregate technical and commercial losses improved to 15.4% in financial year 2023, reaching closer to national goal of 12 to 15%. The billing efficiency has improved to 87% and the collection efficiency remained high at 97.3%. Average power purchase cost increased by 71 paise per kilowatt hour during financial year 2023, driven by growth in power demand, more expensive coal imports and higher exchange prices. Lastly, subsidy disbursals by state governments crossed 100%, with a few states supported financial losses of DISCOMs through subsidy grants. Let's take a look into some of the legacy issues with DISCOMs. Sectoral debt has been steadily increasing, mainly for capital expenditure, financial losses, and working capital. DISCOMs grapples with high quantum of trade payables to generation companies and transmission companies owing to stressed finances. Some states still have to clear substantial subsidy arrears accumulated over a long period. Lastly, high aggregate technical and commercial losses due to discrepancy in meter, theft, collection inefficiency. Furthermore, here are some key initiatives taken for DISCOMs in the country. First and foremost, Ujjwal DISCOM Assurance Yojana Uday that provides for the financial turnaround and revival of DISCOMs. Another, the Revamped Distribution Sector Scheme RDSS with a focus on smart metering, loss reduction works and capacity building. Also, National Smart Grid Mission for smart grid deployment. Lastly, additional lending of 0.50% of GSTP for states on implementation of power sector reforms. In another news, study titled Of the Women, by the Women, for the Nation released by State Bank of India. The study aims to capture the changing landscape of self-help groups or SHGs through analysis of credit utilization and digital behavior matrices of SHGs, SHG members and Lakhpati Didis. A Lakhpati Didi is a self-help group member who earns an annual household income of Rs 1 lakh or more. SHGs are voluntary organizations of people operating within a framework of rules and regulations for common economic and social objectives. with an approach of participatory decision-making and sharing of benefits in an equitable manner. Here are the key highlights of the SBI's report. Incomes of female members of SHGs have more than tripled in the last 5 years. Around 97.5% of the self-help groups have bank accounts, and around 65% of rural self-help group members have moved upwards in terms of relative income in financial year 2024 as compared to financial year 2019. With rise in income of female self-help group members, rural female labor force participation rate of all ages is also rising with a correlation of 0.91. Let's take a look at the self-help group bank linkage program. Started as a pilot program by National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development in 1992-93 to link around 500 SHGs to the formal financial institutions. It has now become the largest microfinance program for delivering financial services to poor in a sustainable manner. Some of the other initiatives of empowerment of self-help groups are Micro Enterprise Development Program for need-based skill development for matured SHGs. Livelihood and Enterprise Development Programs, which envisages conduct of livelihood promotion programs in clusters. Scheme for promotion of women SHGs in backward and left-wing extremist districts of India. Lastly, National Rural Livelihood Mission that provides interest subvention to eligible SHGs.
Moving ahead, Help to Die, the French president backs bill allowing medically assisted death. It could make France the next European country to legalize euthanasia for the terminally ill patients by allowing them to choose the path of least resistance when death has already arrived. Euthanasia, also called mercy killing, is the practice of ending the life of a patient to limit their suffering. Instead of condemning someone to a slow, painful, or undignified death, it allows one to die with dignity. There are two types of euthanasia. First is active, which involves an active intervention to end a person's life with substances or external force, such as administering lethal injection. This type is allowed in Belgium and Canada. Next is passive, which refers to withdrawal of life support or treatment, such as ventilator, that is essential to keep a terminally ill person alive. This type is allowed in Austria, Finland, and Norway. The ethical conundrum surrounding euthanasia presents a complex balance between individual autonomy and the sanctity of life. Proponents argue for personal liberty to execute a living will to refuse treatment and the right of a dignified life by preventing needless suffering. However, opponents contend that it devalues human life, as taking life is inherently wrong and immoral and against medical ethics of nursing, caregiving, and healing. At last, let's also have a look at the legal status of euthanasia in India. Currently, there is no law on euthanasia in India. Only passive euthanasia is allowed in India through an order of the Supreme Court and High Courts. If we talk about important judicial pronouncements related to euthanasia, then these include Aruna Ramchandra Shanbag vs. Union of India 2011, where Supreme Court held passive euthanasia for the first time. Next is Common Cause vs. Union of India 2018. In this case, the Supreme Court held that a person in persistent vegetative state can opt for passive euthanasia. Supreme Court has also held the right to die with dignity is a fundamental right under Article 21.
In today's Place in News, we will discuss Cyprus with its capital Nicosia. A ship carrying 200 tons of aid for Gaza departed from Cyprus. Let's discuss its political boundaries. It is an island country in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, and its maritime neighbors are Turkey in the north, Syria in the east, and Lebanon in the southeast. It is third largest island in Mediterranean Sea after Sicily and Sardinia. In terms of geographical features, it has a mountain range, namely Kyrenia and through those mountains. And its major rivers are Pedios, Sirakis, Koris, and more. Its climate remains Mediterranean, and the highest point is Mount Olympus.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. Telecom Regulatory Authority of India recommended introduction of Calling Name Presentation Supplementary Service in Indian Telecommunication Network (CNAP) supplementary service that enables the called party to receive calling name information of the calling party. Tri-Services Firing and Maneuver Exercise Bharat Shakti was demonstrated in Pokhran, Rajasthan. Bharat Shakti will stimulate realistic, synergized, multi-domain operations displaying integrated operational capabilities of the Indian Armed Forces to counter threats across land, air, sea, cyber and space domains. According to a study, gravitational interaction between Earth and Mars results in cyclic changes in deep ocean currents that recur every 2.4 million years. This 2.4 million year pattern has been identified as the astronomical grand cycle. Mechanism behind the astronomical grand cycle involves gravity fields of the planets in the solar system interfere with each other, and this interaction, called a resonance, influences Earth's path around the Sun. The Assam Cabinet has decided to denotify prime rhino habitat Pobitora Wildlife Sanctuary. Pobitora Wildlife Sanctuary is located in the suburbs of Guwahati, Assam, on the southern bank of Brahmaputra River. It consists of Raja Mayong Reserve Forest and Pobitora Reserve Forest. It has the highest density of greater one-horned rhinoceros in the world. Recently, gene banks from multiple countries have deposited seeds to the Global Seed Vault stockpile. Global Seed Vault is part of an international system for conserving plant genetic diversity guided by the Food and Agriculture Organization. It functions as a safety depository for orthodox seeds, primarily of domesticated plants and their wild relatives, which are important to food and agriculture. The Ministry of Earth Sciences inaugurated the first phase of atmospheric research test bed in central India in Madhya Pradesh. ART-CI aims to advancing weather research for better understanding on processes governing monsoon convection and land-atmosphere interactions over core monsoon zone. The Minister for Earth Sciences announced that the Samudriyaan mission is set to explore the ocean bed by 2025 end. Samudriyaan mission aims to develop a self-propelled manned submersible to carry 3 human beings to a water depth of 6,000 meters in the ocean with scientific sensors and tools for deep ocean exploration. The Prime Minister visited Sabarmati Ashram and inaugurated the redeveloped Kocharab Ashram on 12th March. On 12th March 1930, Gandhiji started the Salt Satyagraha March or Dandi March from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal town of Dandi. At Dandi, Gandhiji broke the British government's salt law by gathering natural salt on the seashore. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.